Okay, welcome back. I hope you're all having a great week. Today we're continuing our RBT exam question series where we're going through 10 RBT exam questions and breaking them down together and how I think you should think about it on the actual exam. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. Happy to have you. Please like and subscribe if you're enjoying these videos. If you're looking for our study materials, please check out rbtexamreview.com. We offer 3 full practice exams, a full task list study guide. Our combo pack comes with everything and flashcards. It's our best deal. And of course, we have our RBT competency study guide as well. Be sure to check out all of those materials. Any questions, comments, please email me or leave them below. I'm happy to help. Other than that, keep working hard, keep studying hard. Let's get into it. Question 1, you're attempting to teach your client to imitate your behaviors. Whenever you give the SD to copy me, the client will sometimes partially imitate the behavior. If you wanted the client to fully imitate, what method would be best to use given this information? So in this scenario, we're trying to teach a behavior. The client is able to partially do the behavior. If we want to continue to increase the client's ability to do this behavior until we reach that terminal or our target behavior, what are we going to do? How will we get to that point? There's a very specific intervention you should be thinking about. If we're trying to build up one response into a final response, what are we doing? Are we punishing? A, well, we're not going to use punishment, right? Because we're trying to increase the behavior. Punishments to decrease the behavior. So A is not going to be the best intervention. What about B, shaping? Do we want to shape this behavior? What is shaping? Well, shaping, we're reinforcing approximations of a behavior until we get to the final response. If our client can partially imitate, if we shape closer and closer responses of imitation to what the imitation we're looking for, then eventually we're going to get to that fully imitating state. So shaping looks like our best answer, right? Because what is shaping? Reinforcing successive approximations, which in this case would be a useful strategy. So B so far is our best answer. Let's look at C, antecedent interventions. Are we going to implement antecedent interventions here? Well, maybe, but the more appropriate thing to do and the more effective thing to do would be to reinforce this behavior, right? We're trying to increase the behavior, okay? Since they can already partially imitate, we're not going to necessarily be looking at manipulating MOs. We might manipulate some motivating operations, but the only way this is going to work if we want to get the client to fully imitate is through reinforcement. So shaping is still a better option. And then D, change to a variable reinforcement schedule. When do we use a variable reinforcement schedule? When the skill is already learned and we're looking to maintain, strengthen, or generalize. We're still teaching it here, therefore we want to go on possibly a continuous schedule or a very thick schedule where a lot of reinforcement is available for engaging in imitation. The best answer here, if we want to increase this partial imitation to full imitation, is shaping. We're going to reinforce closer and closer approximations to our final behavior. Remember, on the exam, we want the best answer. So even if all 4 don't look great, you're trying to find the best one, which is why you need to read all of your answer choices and understand why the wrong answers are wrong. Especially when you're studying, that's going to make you better at the exam. John's favorite football team is the Bengals. He attends every home game. Whenever the Bengals make a good play, the crowd cheers loudly. Typically, the Bengals will make more good plays following the cheering of the crowd. The cheers serve as what? While reading that question, if you've been studying, you should be thinking of how is the cheering impacting the play. So let's look at it. The Bengals make a good play. As a result, or the consequence, is the crowd cheers loudly. Following the crowd cheering loudly, the Bengals make more good plays. What happened to that behavior? It increased. What are we looking for? We're looking for some sort of reinforcement. That's how you should be thinking about reinforcement punishment questions. Okay, the consequence happens. As a result, does the behavior increase or does it decrease? If it increases, I'm looking for reinforcement. If it decreases, I'm looking for punishment. We know the behavior increased, So we're looking for reinforcement. Did we add something or did we take something away? Was it positive, added, or negative, removed? Well, the crowd cheering is added. Bengals make a good play. The stimuli comes in of the crowd cheering. The Bengals make more good plays. So that's positive. Therefore, we're looking for positive reinforcement. When we look at A, that's our answer. That's how we need to be thinking about positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, positive punishment, and negative punishment. Did the behavior increase or decrease? First off, is it going to be reinforcement or punishment? And then was something added or taken away? We know it's not negative reinforcement because even though the behavior increased, nothing was taken away. And we know it's not positive or negative punishment because the behavior didn't decrease. If we look at it through that lens, you'll never miss a reinforcement or punishment question. Ever since his little brother was born, your client is engaging in mild self-injury. The magnitude of the self-injury is high enough to leave red marks on your client's arm. During an interview, the client's mom says the behavior typically occurs when she is holding the newborn baby, feeding the newborn baby, and not engaged with your client. What type of assessment was conducted in this scenario? If you've been following my questions, you might recognize this question. However, I've changed what the question is asking. I'm trying to demonstrate that you need to be attentive on the exam and that every question can produce a lot of different question choices. So previously we were asking about the function in this question. Now we're asking what type of assessment are we conducting? Think about our type of assessments. We have indirect assessments, which are interviews and checklists. We're not actually observing the behavior. We have direct assessments, which are direct observations of the behavior. And then we have functional analysis, where we're manipulating antecedents and consequences. What are we doing in this case? So if we read it again, if we read it carefully, it says during an interview, the client's mom says. Very straightforward after that, right? It's indirect. Look for little nuggets in the question, okay? They're giving you enough information to answer every question, no matter what. Look for the nuggets, look for the giveaways, and a question like this, as soon as you see during an interview, and they're asking about what type of assessment, you should immediately think indirect. Whenever she wakes up in the morning during the winter, Anna will immediately turn on her heater to knock the cold air out of her house. This morning, when Anna adjusted the thermostat, the heater did not turn on. This is an example of what? All right, what is occurring? Anna wakes up. Every morning, she walks to her AC or her thermostat, turns the heater on. The heat comes on. That's what? Positive reinforcement. Anna's behavior is maintained or increased. Reinforcement. The heat comes on. Positive. This morning, however, when she adjusted the thermostat, the heater did not turn on. There is no positive reinforcement. What happened? Well, the reinforcement was withheld from Anna. What do we call it when we withheld reinforcement for a previously reinforced behavior? Is that negative reinforcement? Well, no. Negative reinforcement, we take something away and the behavior increases. In this case, there's nothing to take away, okay? And that's the key. There's no stimuli to take away. When she adjusted the thermostat, all right, reinforcement was withheld, but nothing changed. That's the key. She started adjusting the thermostat. Nothing in the environment changes. Remember that for extinction, okay? We're just withholding that reinforcement. So negative punishment is the same way. Anna's behavior might decrease, but we're not actually taking anything away, right? She's just adjusting the thermostat and nothing is happening. No reinforcement is being delivered. Therefore, it's what? Extinction, okay? Make sure you understand the difference and why extinction is different from, say, negative or positive punishment, right? With extinction, we're withholding something. The heater not turning on is withholding reinforcement. It's not like we're taking away or adding something to the environment. Nothing's happening. The reinforcement's just not being delivered. So Anna adjusting the thermostat and nothing happening is an example of extinction. Lewis's mom tells him that if he behaves for 2 hours while she shops at the mall, she will buy him a brand new toy on their way home. What type of reinforcement schedule does this represent? Okay, so we have our 4 basic reinforcement schedules, FR, VR, FI, VI. What do we know about R? We know it's a ratio schedule. We know it's based on number of responses. What do we know about I? We know it's an interval schedule and it's based on time. So similar to how we approached our positive reinforcement, positive punishment, reinforcement questions, okay, we want to break this down. First, ask yourself, are we looking at a required amount of responses to receive reinforcement, or are we looking at time? So in the question, it says Lewis's mom says if he behaves for 2 hours, he gets reinforcement. So we're looking at time. We're looking at an interval schedule. We can eliminate A and B. So now we have to ask ourselves, is the amount of time required fixed, or is it on average? If it's fixed, right, it doesn't change. It's always going to be 2 hours. If it's variable, the V, it's going to be on average or it's going to be changing. In this case, Lewis's mom says for 2 hours. 2 hours, no more, no less, right? Therefore, it's fixed. That 2 hours is never changing. So ultimately, what type of reinforcement schedule are we looking at? We're looking at a fixed, unchanging interval schedule. If he behaves for 2 hours fixed time, he gets reinforcement. What is the primary difference between socially mediated and automatic? When we're dealing with things like functions, we talk about socially mediated and automatic, okay? Many of our functions like attention, obtaining tangibles are socially mediated. Automatic, sensory, is a function in itself. When we talk about reinforcement, sometimes reinforcement is socially mediated, sometimes it's automatic. Sometimes punishment is socially mediated, sometimes it's automatic. What is the difference? What is the difference between socially mediated and automatic? A, one refers to reinforcement and one refers to punishment. Well, not necessarily. Like we just said, reinforcement and punishment can be both socially mediated and automatic. Okay, so A is not what we're looking for. B, there's no difference between the two. Again, incorrect. There is a very clear difference between socially mediated and automatic. B is not what we're looking for. C, one refers to a single person and one refers to 2 or more people. Yes, socially mediated is referring to 2 or more people. So the reinforcement, the punishment, the consequence is being delivered by a second party. There are 2 or more people involved in the exchange. Automatic is referring to the single learner. When we talk about automatic reinforcement, so the function is automatic, we talk about self-stimulatory behavior. The reinforcement typically is internal. It doesn't require a social party to deliver that feedback. That is the difference. Socially mediated is 2 or more people. It's a social thing. Automatic refers to one singular person. And then D, always read all of your answer choices. Socially mediated is not a behavior analytic term. That is incorrect. It is a behavior analytic term. Each day as soon as class starts, Wendy will raise her hand multiple times in order to gain the attention of her teacher, Miss Brown. Miss Brown has now started to talk to Wendy for 5 minutes before class every morning, which has decreased the hand-raising behavior. Miss Brown talking to Wendy is considered what? Kind of a tricky question to just answer off the bat, all right? But if you've been studying a while, you might be savvy and immediately know what we're looking for. We're dealing with Wendy seeking attention from her teacher, Miss Brown. So whenever class starts, Wendy's raising her hand, Miss Brown, Miss Brown, Miss Brown, so she gets attention. In response, Miss Brown decided before class, I'll talk to Wendy, give her all the attention, and try to abolish, okay, the want for attention. This is a motivating operation thing. We're trying to decrease the value of attention during class. Is there a contingency for Miss Brown delivering attention? No. Just 5 minutes before class, she'll go talk to Wendy no matter what. There's no if-then statement, no contingency. Therefore, what do we consider this type of behavior or this type of intervention? Is this contingent reinforcement? No, it's the opposite. Contingent reinforcement, remember a contingency is an if-then statement. If Wendy does this, then she gets this. There's no if in this scenario. Ms. Brown just provides attention to Wendy before class, no matter what. Therefore, we're looking at B, non-contingent reinforcement. Non-contingent reinforcement is an antecedent strategy typically meant to reduce attention-seeking behavior, which is Ms. Brown is doing here. She's attempting to reduce Wendy's attention-seeking behavior through non-contingent reinforcement. Are we looking at extinction? No, we're not withholding reinforcement for Wendy raising her hand. Extinction might be Wendy raises her hand, Ms. Brown doesn't call on her. And then negative reinforcement. There's no negative reinforcement going on. Nothing's being removed in this scenario. If anything, the attention is being given. So Ms. Brown talking to Wendy is simply considered non-contingent reinforcement. Steph Curry needs 9 three-pointers to break Ray Allen's all-time three-point shooting record. What will be the best way to track Steph Curry's made shots as he approaches the record? All right, so ask yourself, basic measurement, are we looking at how much, how many, or how long, right? How much and how many, we're dealing with things like frequency and rate. How long, we're dealing with things like latency, IRT, duration. In this case, Steph Curry needs 9 three-pointers. So we're looking at a count. We're looking at how long, we're looking at how many. Therefore, what's the best way to track Steph Curry's made shots? Well, A, frequency. How are you going to track made shots? Well, each time he makes one, you count 1. All you're going to be doing is counting the shots. Does latency matter? Does it matter how long passes between the SD and Steph Curry making a shot? No, because each time he makes a shot, that latency is going to reset. It's not going to actually give us a frequency on how many three-pointers he's made. What about IRT? Does it matter how long he goes in between making three-pointers? Again, no, right? We just want to know how many threes he's making. And then whole interval time sampling is discontinuous. Discontinuous measurement doesn't track every instance of behavior. We want to track every instance of Steph Curry making a 3. So we're going to count how many threes he makes. We're going to keep a running tally. We're going to record frequency data on Steph Curry making three-pointers. James took his 7-year-old son out to lunch. When the waitress came by, James ordered his food and then looked at his son and said, "Tell the waitress what you want." James' son then ordered his own food, and James reinforced his son with praise. What type of teaching is this? Okay, so as an RBT, you need to think about 2 types of teaching. You need to think about discrete trial teaching, and you need to think about incidental/naturalistic teaching. Remember, incidental and naturalistic are the same thing. What are the differences between the 2? Discrete trial is very contrived. It's in a controlled setting. A lot of feedback is given rapidly. A lot of SDs are given rapidly, and is run very quickly. It's very manufactured. Naturalistic teaching occurs just in the environment. Incidental teaching, where we're taking advantage of learning opportunities. What is occurring here? Well, James and his son are at a restaurant, and as the waitress comes up, James wants to teach his son how to order a meal. This is a naturally occurring scenario, okay, full of naturally occurring reinforcement, which James is taking advantage of to help his son learn to order food. So what type of teaching is this? Is this A, incidental teaching? Yes, James is taking advantage of this incident, okay, to teach a skill. This naturally occurring scenario where the son has to order his own food. James is taking advantage of this. So A looks like our answer. Let's keep reading. B, discrete trials. Is James running discrete trials? Is he having his son order food over and over and over again? No. We're now working naturally in the natural environment. So B is not our answer. What about C, naturalistic teaching? We just said incidental teaching and naturalistic teaching are the same thing. Therefore, it has to be both A and C. And so our answer here is going to be D. James is using incidental/naturalistic teaching to teach his son. You take I-15 every morning for work. While leaving your house, you see a post on Twitter that says the I-15 is closed, but that an alternate route is available. You enter the alternate route into the Google Maps and drive to work. The Twitter post functions as a what? All right, so what is our 4-term contingency? We have MO, SD, response, consequence. What do MOs do? MOs increase the value or decrease the value. It makes you want or not want something. What does an SD do? It signals reinforcement is available. And then the response is in response to the SD. The consequence is reinforcing or punishment or whatever follows the response. In this case, the Twitter post does what? So you're taking the I-15 every morning for work. So you're going to work. You see a post on Twitter that says, there's an alternate route available to work today because the I-15 is closed. Is that a motivating operation? Is that changing your motivation? Well, no. How does the scenario start? You're going to work. The motivation to go to work is already there. The route doesn't matter. That doesn't change the value of going to work. Okay. However, what the alternate route is signaling is it's telling you the I-15 is closed, but there's reinforcement available for the alternate route. Okay. You already want to take the best route, right? So there's no more motivation than there was before to take the best route or get to work. But there is now a different SD for reinforcement. If you go to the I-15, you're not going to receive reinforcement. However, the alternate route is now providing you reinforcement. So you take that alternate route, which is the response, and as a consequence, you get to work. So the Twitter post functions as a what? An SD. So the SD is the Twitter post. The response is you take the alternate route. The consequence is you get to work. Okay, I hope you enjoyed. Please like and subscribe if you did. If you have any questions, let me know. As always, check out our study materials, rbtexamreview.com. Keep working hard, keep studying hard. I'll see you soon.